thinking about the unknown, I'd like to go from a more general view of what it means to face the unknown to a more specific view, particularly talking about the work that I do revolving around Professor Yunus, social business, and the Grameen Creative Lab. And if you look at the facts today, 1 billion people in the world live on less than $1 a day, which is really not a significant amount if you think about the fact that, I don't know, a Starbucks coffee costs £2.50. But even more surprisingly, almost 50% of the world, i.e. every second person here in the room, lives below $2 a day. And that is, I think, probably for most of you, a fact that is somehow known, but at the same time, it's a fact that we all don't really realize. It's a fact that we try to all put aside and not think of really every single day. Even though it's clearly there, everyone that reads the paper, that reads the news can know about this. And yeah, to a certain extent, then I also ask myself, if we always talk about we're all one and there's oneness, etc., can this actually be the way that we're treating the rest of the world? Is this the way that being so oblivious, is that actually, let's say, fair or just? A second fact that I'd like to put out here, which also says something about the system that we live in, is that 1.2 billion people each year, and this is a fact from 2009, a FAO report, they endure acute hunger every single day. This is a number that since the 70s has never risen over this amount. This is basically a rising tendency. Okay, we're also growing, that's clear. Our population in general has grown as well, but clearly it's the first time that we've actually reached the 1 billion number, and that is, again, quite a shocking fact. Every one of those individuals still feels it. So over 1 billion people really suffer from hunger every single day. At the same time, what a contrast, the very similar amount of people actually suffer from obesity. Basically the economic system that we're living in. I guess in the last century, there have been hopes of maybe a socialist world that might be the solution to all of our problems. But I guess we all know that failed. Fall of the Berlin Wall 20 years ago. The other part of the world has said capitalism is the solution to everything. We've seen highs there. We've seen Wall Street bankers and people in the city earning millions and millions in bonuses, and the economy really going fast. But I think also there in the last few years, people, these are actually my friends, I would say. Many of my friends have been having to take their leaves from their banking jobs, etc. We've seen several systems kind of go up, go down, have hopes, have failed, and we're now again facing the unknown in general terms of our economic system. Where is it actually supposed to go, and what is the right system that we need? And that's where I'll come with maybe a little bit of a hope, but certainly not a solution. But at least it's somewhat of a something that I at least feel, which motivates me every day to get up very early in the morning and late at night, come home, is basically this idea of social business. These are companies that, instead of having profit maximization as their main goal, which all normal companies actually have, they take a social goal, i.e. solving some kind of a social problem as their major focus in their company operations. There's also one other major point, that owners or investors can receive their original investment amount back. Let's say they've invested $1 million, they get $1 million back once the company is break even, but they never receive any dividends above that. So this whole shareholder value-drivenness and this short-termism that you were also speaking about, Maya, earlier, goes away in this type of a company. And that's why I really believe that this is something that can, to a certain extent, at least be an alternative in choosing a job. Like, let's say if any one of you wants to set up a company, maybe you'll create a social business in the future instead of creating a normal business. So just an idea. Maybe you'll also do this instead of setting up an NGO. Maybe that might be a solution to solve a social problem, because it's actually sustainable. Who of you knows Professor Yunus? So he won the Peace Nobel Prize in 2006 for an idea that now is relatively well known, microcredit. He started that round about 40 years ago in Bangladesh, in his home nation, where he used to be an economics professor. And at some point, basically with cyclones and natural disasters going on in Bangladesh right after also right after the independence of Bangladesh in the early 70s, he just thought he can't teach any more of those theories. He actually needs to do something proper and actually do something for the people that are out there that are hungry and that are dying every day. So what he started, what he basically did is he went out there and faced the unknown again. He went out there and he talked to the people and he asked them about what their needs were. And it turns out they didn't want any donations. They didn't want anyone to just give them food or whatever. They actually said that they needed money to set up their own businesses, because most of them were dependent on so-called loan sharks that were giving them money, and therefore they had to more or less be slaves, let's say. So in any case, through this whole process, through this understanding that he made there, he created a bank, a microfinance bank, which is called the Grameen Bank. And what they do is they give out very, very, very small loans, and I'm talking about, it can start at $5. Right now the average in Bangladesh is $250, that they give out to people for a small interest rate. And people can therefore set up their businesses. Let's say they buy chickens, and through the eggs that they lay, they can sell the eggs, they create their little income, and can actually have a normal life and have a normal income. What we see now, 35 years later, the Grameen Bank has now, and I've talked about these increments of around about $250, they've given out loans that reach over $8.7 billion over the last 30 years. They have a return rate of 98%, so the poor actually pay back, something that people usually don't really believe in. And funny enough, he's focused on women with his work. Originally he wanted to do men, women at the same time, but he really, over the years, found out that women just invest the money in a much more sustainable way, in the sense that actually they improve the education of their children, and basically do something for their family, whereas some of the guys went out and had a drink and so on. I'm not saying that this is a general thing, but it does happen sometimes. The Grameen Bank now has $8 million, what am I saying? 8 million members in Bangladesh. That means it really has an impact on 40 million lives if you think about roughly 5 people in a family, which in a country like Bangladesh, which is actually quite big, with around about 140 million people, is quite an incredible impact. Grameen Bank is a really, really big organization there. And and nowadays, microcredit anyway is a giant, giant topic. It's in some ways also somewhat has been bastardized. A lot of people make a lot of money off of microcredit nowadays. So we shouldn't really always confuse the Grameen Bank and their approaches with other microfinance organizations, or basically Morgan Stanley and co investing in some microfinance schemes. That's not the same thing. They're actually making a lot of money with it nowadays, which is somewhat defeating the purpose, but I won't get into that now. What Professor Yunus has learned from his experience over those 40 years, he's somewhat thought about how can I extend actually exactly this concept, but also extend it to other areas, not only the financial area. So there are also other problems, not only that people don't have that they don't have access to money. It's also that they don't have access to healthcare, they don't have access to energy, to many, many other things. So he in Bangladesh has now created almost a conglomerate of over 30 companies that all basically solve whatever social problems. And through his experience with all of these companies, he's created this concept, basically from practice to theory, which he now calls social business. And social business is a non-loss, non-dividend company that is designed to address a social problem. And this is exactly what we mean with that. And because there's a lot of confusion in terms of social business, people often think, oh, great, we can do something social, but really make a lot of money on it on the side. And that's not what we mean with this, but just for your understanding what we mean with it. And so I'm coming from the general into now my actual particular work. And this is what Scylla has been talking about earlier, the Grameen Creative Lab. Grameen Creative Lab was an idea that came up between these two men. Professor Yunus, you know. Hans Reitz is a German entrepreneur who has really befriended Professor Yunus in 2007, and they thought, well, that idea of social business is great, but I think we need somebody to spread it. So the two of them said, well, why don't we institutionalize this a little bit? Let's create a company. And that's exactly where Silla said, I heard him speak, and I said, whatever it is, I want to do it. And I went up to him and said, I really want to do it. I really don't know what it is. And he said, well, I don't know what it is either. But actually, by the way, who are you? Anyway, so he said, well, talk to Hans. And then I talked to Hans, and we basically came to the agreement. And so there I came along as a founding member. And I'm also now the director of the Grameen Creative Lab. So that was at the end of 2008 in November. And yeah, now we're a fully fledged limited company, and we've broken even, and we've created a few things along the way, and I'll let you know about a little bit about what that is right now. I just wanted to basically point out a few examples of what we've actually achieved in the last almost 1.5 years now. I guess it is. It's almost 2 years. On the one hand, we spread the idea of social businesses through events and conferences, and Professor Yunus has just brought out his third book, which is called Building Social Business, where we have also been featured, and where we also contributed in terms of the content that's actually in there. Then that's the one arm of things that we do. And on the other hand, we create social businesses all around the world. So a few of our major achievements are that we set up a social business joint venture, so a new social business company in Bangladesh together with the BASF. BASF is the largest chemical company in the world with around about 50–60 billion euros turnover. They have committed to, or they haven't committed, it's already happened. They've set up a social business in Bangladesh that sells mosquito nets, treated mosquito nets to the poor, rather than giving them out, which happens in many countries, that they give out mosquito nets and people wear them as wedding dresses or go fishing with them. They actually sell them to people, and thereby people actually understand that there's a value to it. And they look at it and they say, oh no, actually I don't want a mosquito net like this. I don't want a small mosquito net. I need a big mosquito net for my entire family. So you really get into a dialogue with the people, which in my eyes is much more dignifying for the people that are actually involved in the process, rather than saying, here you go, you poor little thing, here's your mosquito nets. So basically the whole business relationship might sound for some people, first of all, weird. Why do these poor people, they can't afford it? But really, actually, if you talk to them, and if it's something of value, they really understand what value for money really means. That is what they focus on. I'll move on to my last and very specific example that I wanted to share with you, which is a project that we've just launched in Haiti. And to most of you, I don't have to say what's going on in Haiti. There was an incredible earthquake in January of this year. Over 250,000 people died, 300,000 people were injured, and Haiti is more or less facing an absolute unknown. It's a country that's basically a blank slate right now. And showing you a few pictures. This is a girl that lives in Cité du Soleil, one of the worst slums. We met her in a hospital, and she said, oh, I want to show you my home, etc. Yeah, she lost her limb, and that's something that has happened to so many people there. It's an absolute crazy development, and you need to find jobs for these kind of people. Like, their future is suddenly completely different. She's absolutely facing the unknown. Every one of them is facing the unknown to actually find a place where they can sleep that night, have food in the morning, etc., etc. This is one of the tent cities. We were also living in a similar tent city. And what we're doing there, we call it the YY Haiti Initiative, Yunus the New Haiti Initiative. We're setting up a social business fund in Haiti. We've already launched 3 different pilot projects there as social businesses, and are hoping through social business to be able to rebuild Haiti. Just hiring a Haitian person that will then be leading our Grameen Creative Lab in Haiti, starting at the end of this year. So that's what we're doing right there. I'll leave you with this, I'm ready for questions at any time, if we still have time.